Please, Rancher, don't leave us. Mama is dead and Papa is gone." The children sobbed until he took them home. Sarah's bare feet slapped against the gravel as she dragged her little brother toward the pickup truck. Ash streaked her face like war paint, and her singed dress hung in tatters. Behind them, orange flames licked through the collapsed porch of what used to be home. "Please, mister, don't go." She screamed at the weathered man loading feed bags into his truck bed. Jack Morrison's hands froze on the tailgate. He turned toward the voice, squinting through the smoke drifting across his windshield. Mama, she ain't breathing no more," Tommy sobbed. His 6-year-old frame shaking as Sarah pulled him forward. Jack straightened slowly, his calloused hands dropping to his sides. The children stumbled closer, desperation radiating from their small bodies like heat from the burning house. "Papa's truck is gone. Been gone 3 days," Sarah continued, her voice cracking but determined. Jack studied their faces. The girl's eyes held too much knowledge for 8 years. The boy clutched something against his chest, tears cutting clean tracks through the soot on his cheeks. "Where's your kin?" Jack asked, his voice rough from years of speaking mainly to cattle and wind. "Ain't got none nearby." "Sheriff?" "Sheriff, don't come out here." Jack's gaze shifted to what Sarah clutched in her small fist. Her blood-stained apron, the fabric still damp. His stomach tightened as he noticed what Tommy held, a broken picture frame with glass hanging loose. The photograph inside too damaged to make out faces. Behind the children, the farmhouse windows gaped like dead eyes, shattered from the inside out. "Not from fire? From something else. How long's your mama been down?" Jack asked quietly. "Since yesterday morning," Sarah whispered. "She was making breakfast and just fell down." Tommy pressed closer to his sister. "Mama wouldn't wake up when I shook her." Jack looked past them at the dying flames, then back at their faces. These weren't just scared children. They were survivors, and something in their raw terror cut through the wall he'd built around his heart 3 years ago when his own world burned down. "Get in the truck," he said, opening the passenger door. The truck cab felt too small with grief pressed between them. Sarah clutched the bloody apron against her chest, while Tommy leaned into her side, both children staring through the windshield at the dusty road ahead. Jack kept his eyes forward, but his ears caught every broken word they whispered to each other. "Mama was scared," Sarah said, her voice barely audible over the engine. "Said they were coming." Jack glanced at her in the rearview mirror. "Who was coming?" "The men with badges." Tommy nodded against his sister's shoulder. "Mama locked all the doors, made us hide in the cellar." "When did she die?" "Real sudden," Sarah whispered. "Yesterday morning. She was making coffee and just dropped." Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel as they pulled into town. The sheriff's office sat squat and brown between the hardware store and the diner, its windows reflecting nothing but empty sky. Sheriff Crowley didn't look up when Jack pushed through the door with the children behind him. He kept writing in a ledger, his belly straining against his uniform shirt. "Elena Martinez," Crowley said when Jack explained. "Yeah, we know about her." "What happened?" "Heart gave out. Stress, probably. Happens to these people." Jack felt Sarah stiffen beside him. "And Miguel?" "Miguel's got gambling debts." "Skip town?" Behind the sheriff's desk, Deputy Williams quickly shuffled a stack of papers into a drawer. But not quick enough. Jack caught a glimpse of property deeds, and Elena's name crossed out in red ink. Sarah saw them too, her small hands clenching into fists. "That ain't right," she said, stepping forward. "Papa don't gamble." Crowley finally looked at her, his pale eyes cold. "Child, your papa's got problems you don't understand. He don't gamble," Sarah repeated louder now. "Mama said gambling was a sin. People lie, little girl. Especially when they owe the wrong people money." Jack studied the sheriff's face, noting how his jaw worked, like he was chewing something bitter. The deputy had gone pale, avoiding eye contact. The whole office felt wrong, like a house where someone had died and nobody wanted to clean up the blood. "When's the funeral?" Jack asked. "Already buried her. County pays for quick burials when there's no family money." Sarah's gasp cut through the stale air. "You buried Mama without us." The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like dying insects. Jack slid into a corner booth with the children, the cracked vinyl seats patched with duct tape. Only two other customers sat at the counter, hunched over coffee cups and speaking in whispers. "What do you want to eat?" Jack asked, but Sarah wasn't listening. She stared at her mother's apron spread across the table under the harsh white light. Jack studied the stains more closely. What he'd thought was blood in the dim light of dawn revealed itself as something else entirely. Dark mud mixed with flecks of something metallic that caught the fluorescent glare like tiny stars. Mary, the diner owner, approached with a coffee pot and recognized the children immediately. Her weathered face softened as she poured Jack's coffee without being asked. "Poor babies," she whispered, setting down extra biscuits. "Elena was a good person. You know what happened?" Jack asked. Mary glanced toward the kitchen, then leaned closer. "Same thing that happened to the Garcias last month. And the Herreras before that, what do you mean? Families have been disappearing. Always the same pattern." Mary's voice dropped to barely audible. "Wives die suddenly, husbands vanish, land gets sold quickly." Jack felt ice form in his stomach. "To whom? Governor's Development Company?" Building a resort, Tommy bit into a biscuit while tears ran down his cheeks. Sarah pushed scrambled eggs around her plate, not eating. "How many families?" Jack pressed. 6 this year. "Maybe more." Mary refilled his cup with shaking hands. "Good people, hard-working. Then one day, gone." Sarah looked up from her untouched food. "Mama hid papers under the chicken coop." Jack's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. "What kind of papers?" "Said they was important. Said if something happened, find the rancher who helped us before." The words hit Jack like a physical blow. He set down his fork, staring at the 8-year-old girl across from him. "Sarah, I never met your mama before today." "She knew you, though." "Said you lost your wife the same way." Mary gasped, stepping backward. Jack felt the blood drain from his face as Sarah continued. "Mama said, when they killed your Rose, you didn't fight back. But maybe this time would be different." The diner fell silent except for the buzzing lights and the distant sound of grease popping in the kitchen. The Martinez farm looked like a graveyard in the afternoon light. Jack parked beside the burned skeleton of the house and grabbed a crowbar from his truck bed. The chicken coop sat untouched by flames, its weathered boards gray as old bones. "Which board?" Jack asked. Sarah pointed to a loose plank near the back corner. "Mama made me memorize exactly where." Jack wedged the crowbar under the board and pried upward. The wood splintered with a sharp crack that echoed across the empty fields. Underneath, wrapped in thick plastic and buried in shallow dirt, sat a metal box. "That's it," Sarah whispered. Jack pulled the box free and brushed off the soil. Inside, manila folders held property deeds, death certificates, and dozens of photographs. The photos showed Eleanor with other women, all Hispanic, all smiling at community gatherings and church functions. "Your mama was building a case," Jack said, studying the documents. "Against who?" "Governor Burke, Sheriff Crowley. The whole damn system." The papers detailed a systematic pattern. Families approached about selling their land. Refusals followed by sudden deaths. Property transferred to shell companies owned by the Governor's Development Corporation. Tommy wandered through the debris near the house and returned carrying something. "Found this in Mama's bedroom," a cassette tape labeled in Eleanor's careful handwriting for the rancher. Jack searched the ruins until he found an old boombox that had survived the fire. He inserted the tape and pressed play. Static crackled, then Elena's voice filled the silence, shaky but determined. "Jack Morrison, if you're hearing this, they got me. But my children, they're innocent. The other families, we tried to fight legally, but they don't play legal." Sarah gripped Jack's arm tighter as her mother's voice continued. "I've seen what they've done to families who resist. Make it look like accident. Heart attacks, overdoses, husbands disappear or go to jail on made-up charges." Jack's jaw clenched as he thought of Rose, found dead in their kitchen 3 years ago. "Heart attack," the coroner said. "Stress from refusing to sell their ranch. But I got proof." Eleanor's voice pressed on. "In the apron, soil samples from where they bury the bodies. GPS coordinates. Miguel didn't run. They took him because he wouldn't sell." The tape hissed to silence. Sarah looked up at Jack with her mother's determined eyes. "Are we going to die too?" The children slept curled together on Jack's old couch, Sarah's arm protecting Tommy even in sleep. Jack sat at his kitchen table under the dim overhead light, spreading Elena's evidence across the scratched wood surface. Property deeds, death certificates, and photographs of families who no longer existed. He opened his own lockbox with shaking hands and pulled out a manila folder he hadn't touched in 3 years. Inside, similar documents. Rose's death certificate lists heart failure as the cause of death. Medical records show a perfectly healthy woman who died suddenly after telling Governor Burke's men to get off her property. Jack poured 3 fingers of whiskey and picked up Rose's photograph from the mantel. Her smile looked back at him, frozen in happier times when they'd believed in justice and law. "Should have listened to you," he whispered to the image. "Should have fought harder." A soft knock interrupted the silence. Jack moved to the window and peered through the curtain. Father Miguel Santos stood on his porch, the old priest's face grave in the moonlight. Jack opened the door. "Father, they're coming for you now." "Jack, word's out you got the Martinez children. Let them come. This ain't just about land anymore." The priest stepped inside, glancing toward the sleeping children. "Elena gathered evidence on 12 families, all dead or disappeared, and you? I helped her hide copies. Church records, burial sites, everything." Jack poured the priest a whiskey. Through the kitchen window, headlights cut through the darkness, still distant but approaching. "They killed Elena with poison in her insulin," Father Santos said quietly. "Made it look like diabetic shock. And Miguel, bottom of Crater Lake, like the others." Jack moved to his gun cabinet and pulled out his rifle, checking the chamber. "Get the children. Back bedroom. Jack, you can't fight them all. Watch me." Father Santos headed toward the couch, but Sarah appeared in the kitchen doorway before he reached her. She still clutched her mother's bloody apron, her 8-year-old face set with determination that belonged on someone much older. "I ain't hiding no more," she said. The headlights grew closer, sweeping across Jack's front yard. Car doors slammed in the distance. Sarah walked to the window and looked out at the approaching shadows. "Mama said hiding just makes the waiting worse." Car doors slammed like gunshots in the night air. Jack peered through the kitchen blinds and counted 4 shadows moving across his yard. Sheriff Crowley walked in front, his guts straining against his uniform. 3 deputies flanked him, hands resting on their holstered weapons. "Jack Morrison!" Crowley's voice boomed across the darkness. "Send out the Martinez kids. They're wards of the state now." Jack stepped onto his porch, rifle held low but ready. "Like hell they are." Behind him, Father Santos guided Tommy toward the back door, while Sarah positioned herself at the front window. Her small face pressed against the glass, watching the men who'd killed her mother. "They killed my mama," she whispered to Jack. "I saw the needle marks on her arm." "You sure?" "Mama never took shots there. Always in her belly." Jack opened the door wider, keeping his body between the deputies and the house. "Children are under my protection." "You got no legal standing, Morrison," Crowley called back. "Got something better." "Got the truth." Sarah stepped past Jack onto the porch, Elena's bloody apron clutched in one hand, the cassette tape in the other. The deputies shifted nervously as the 8-year-old girl walked toward them without fear. "My mama made copies," she announced, her voice cutting through the night like a blade. "Everything you've done. Where do you bury people? How much does the governor pay you?" Crowley's face hardened in the porch light. "Little girl's been through trauma. Making up stories. Soil samples match 3 burial sites. DNA evidence. Financial records." Jack felt a chill of understanding. Elena hadn't just gathered evidence. She'd trained her daughter to present it. Every word Sarah spoke sounded rehearsed, prepared for this exact moment. "Governor Burke's going to prison," Sarah continued. "You too, Sheriff." Crowley's hand moved to his weapon. No witnesses, no evidence. The click of his gun clearing leather echoed across the yard. But before he could raise it, Father Santos appeared behind the deputies like a ghost emerging from shadows. "Funny thing about churches, Sheriff," the priest said calmly. "We got camera systems now. Been recording this whole conversation." The standoff froze. Crowley's gun hung half-raised, while his deputies looked between him and the priest with growing panic. Sarah walked closer to Crowley, fearless as her mother had been. You can kill us, but you can't kill what Mama built. Too many people know now. The sheriff's finger tightened on the trigger, but his eyes darted toward the cameras Father Santos had mentioned. In the distance, more headlights appeared on the horizon. Dawn painted the sky orange over Jack's ranch. Sheriff Crowley sat handcuffed in the back of an FBI sedan, his face gray as old concrete. Two of his deputies occupied a second car, heads hanging in shame. Deputy Martinez, Miguel's cousin, loaded evidence boxes into a federal van with careful hands. Jack leaned against his porch rail, watching Sarah and Tommy feed carrots to his horses. The children moved with their mother's gentle confidence, no longer jumping at every sound or shadow. Father Santos approached, dust on his black shirt from the long night. FBI says they got enough for federal charges. Governor Burke's already lawyering up. And the children. Social Services wants to split them up. Different foster homes. Sarah's head snapped toward them. She dropped the carrots and ran to Jack, Tommy close behind. Please, Rancher, don't let them take us apart. We stay together, or we don't stay at all. Tommy added, grabbing Jack's sleeve. Jack knelt to their level, his weathered hands resting on their small shoulders. Your mama knew this day would come. That's why she made those recordings. She knew you'd help us. She knew I failed my own family. Gave me a chance to do right by hers. Tommy tugged Jack's sleeve harder. Can we stay, for real? If that's what you want. Sarah looked toward the horizon, where smoke no longer rose from their old home. Mama said home ain't a place. It's people who fight for you. 3 months later, adoption papers signed and filed. Sarah knelt in Elena's relocated garden behind Jack's house. She'd planted it next to Rose's memorial flowers, 2 mothers' legacies growing together in the rich soil. Tommy ran between the vegetable rows, no longer jumping when cars passed on the distant road. His laughter carried across the fields like music Jack had forgotten existed. Jack taught Sarah to ride horses, while she taught him Spanish words Elena used to whisper to them at bedtime. Mija meant my daughter. Familia meant the people who choose to love you. At dinner, they set 4 plates around the small kitchen table. 2 for the living, 2 for the watching. Say grace. Papa Jack, Sarah said, her voice strong and sure. Elena Martinez fought so these children could live free. Rose Morrison died believing justice would come. We honor them by being the family they dreamed of, Sarah added softly, and we don't let nobody take our home again. Tommy grinned, gap-toothed and fearless. Ever? Jack raised his glass of milk toward the empty plates. Ever? Outside, the wind carried Elena's whispered promise through the fields. Some battles end, but love never dies. And sometimes the broken find each other just in time.